Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Golfing Greenkeeper podcast. My name is Steve Smith, and I'm your host, and I have an absolute perler for you this time around. This is a Keeper of the Green segment brought to you by Colin Campbell's Chemicals, the sponsor of this segment of the podcast. You're really going to enjoy it. Sit with me. This is episode number 82. Ladies and gentlemen, Nadim's Nuggets is back for another snippet of this Keeper of the Green segment of the Golfing Greenkeeper podcast, and I have Nadim with me on the line. G'day, Nadim.
Hey, Steve. How are you, mate?
I'm very well, mate. I'm very well. We're getting very excited because next week is the ASTMA conference. You're going to be there. I'm going to be there with you and throughout the time there at the trade show. Tell us a little bit about this conference.
Yeah, great. So this is the National Turf Conference that's on every year. And this year it's in the great city of Adelaide, where we have not been for over 10 years. So
wow,
it's going to be really good to see everyone there, all the delegates coming along. And obviously from our point of view, we're going to be at the trade show.
Absolutely.
So that we're going to be at the trade show. We are going to be showcasing all of our products, obviously, there. We're going to be having a few giveaways. We've got our Google mug to give away with the Emerald branding on it this year. A little bit of updates with Poacure and the likes. And just have some good fun and having you there. I want people to come and meet you, Steve.
Yeah, mate,
and
that's exactly right, mate. We want to get down there. We want to see people. I've talked about having photo bombs with the superstars of the turf industry. That's what we're going to see because they're going to be walking around. So I want those superstars, you greenkeepers out there, superintendents, apprentices, no matter who you are, come to the Colin Campbell Chemical stand. And what are you? Number 32 is the booth near the entry there.
Yeah, number 32. So literally, as you walk in, you turn right and you see us, and you see the Toolbox team as well. So we're right next to Ben there. So definitely come and say hi to both of us. Ben's a good mate of mine as well. So we've both got a lot to share there. And we also want to see a lot of people who may not be registered for the conference, because you don't actually need to register for the conference, for the seminars, to actually attend the trade show.
So what? You can. So there's going to be those that are delegates there to do the seminars and all the big things for all the week, right? But what you're saying is you can go to the trade show on its own, and it's free entry. You just got to register online.
That's it. So free entry on Wednesday and Thursday. So anyone from metro areas in Adelaide, regional areas in Adelaide, come down, bring your crew down. It's all free to come down there. I think, Steve, you can put a link in the show notes there for the registration. Just do it beforehand, just a little bit easier, or you can do it on the site. But yeah, we want to see as many people as possible, many turf managers, apprentices, greenkeepers, yeah.
There you go. There's the call out. There's the call out to come down. For those of you who aren't doing the week-long, all the seminars and the full delegates can do, you want to come down. You may not have had a chance. 10 years since we've been in Adelaide, so you might not have had a chance to see it. So it's free. Register and come and walk in and see what is going on in the turf industry. It might be golfers that might be interested as well. Other people around the fringes of the turf industry itself that may not have been to see all that's going on there in the trade show. So we want to see you at the Colin Campbell Chemical stand. We're going to do, mate, you and I, we're going to do a little bit of recording in your booth at some point, so that's going to be sensational. We're going to be giving away some things. We just want people to come and say hi, and they can pick your brains about all sorts of questions that they might have about how better to manage and maintain their turf surfaces as well, mightn't they?
Yeah, definitely. No. Looking forward to it, and looking forward to see you in person again, Steve.
Fantastic, mate. A great lot of fun. Looking forward to the conference. Let's see you down there, guys. Ladies and gentlemen, Keeper of the Greens is back once again, and this time we are travelling off to the central area of Australia. We're going into the driest state of the country, being South Australia, into the beautiful city of churches, being Adelaide, and it's reasonably flat. I do talk about Adelaide being quite flat. It is a wonderful golfing region of Australia. We're going into the Grange Golf Club, and I have on the line Superintendent Rowan Daymond. G'day, Rowan. How you doing, mate?
Good, mate. How are you?
Not too bad. Thanks for coming on the podcast. I'm super excited to have you on. I love talking to... I've had 2 interviews so far with superintendents from Adelaide. I love talking to people in that part of the world. It's a great golf destination, isn't it?
It is a great place. A lot of good golf courses all tucked in that sort of sandbelt area of Adelaide. So, yeah, it's good to be good to be down here playing golf, but great spot to work as well.
Fantastic, mate. Now we're going to, as we always do, part of this is we talk about your career, your life as a greenkeeper, and then we're going to talk about the golf courses. You got 2 golf courses there at the Grange, a 36-hole facility. We're going to talk about the golf courses there that you maintain, the team, the unique parts of the courses, characteristics, and because you've recently hosted the first live golf tournament in Australia, we're going to have a bit of a chat about what that was like as well, mate. So hopefully you're going to be able to give us a bit of insight on an inaugural type of tournament in this country. So I'm looking forward to picking your brains, if that's going to be all right.
Yeah, that'd be fine. All
right, mate. All right. Now, let's have a bit of fun first, and this is Steve's Super 7 questions, quick fire. I say quick fire, they can be quite elaborate sometimes, so don't be too worried if you end up having a story behind some of them. So, mate, are you ready for these 7 questions?
Yeah, go for it.
All right, let's go. First one, sunrise or sunset?
Sunset for me. The afternoons here are pretty special, and I'd certainly rather the afternoon sun to the morning.
That's. I think, if I'm not mistaken, everyone I've interviewed in Adelaide has said the same thing. Is that an Adelaide thing?
I don't know what that might be. I don't know. Just the mornings can be just as good, but the afternoon sun here, you just can't beat it. Adelaide's like you said in the intro there, a warm place, and that afternoon sun, especially at this time of the year, can be pretty nice being out in it and around the golf course.
It's beautiful temperatures in autumn in Adelaide. There's a lot of positives to that part of the world, as much as a lot of people sort of, I know from the outside, certainly from the East Coast, and we do talk about it in a jovial sense that it's a big country town. It's got this beautiful feel of a country town, and it's a capital city, of course. It's it's really enjoyable to visit Adelaide. I do enjoy it. So there you go. Sunset's one for you, and we've only done the first question. All right. Number 2, dogs or no dogs allowed on the golf course? What's your preference?
I'd probably say no dogs.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, that's all good. Everyone's got a preference. It's it's neither here nor there. I just like to hear what people's preferences are. We go to number 3. Now this one's always a good one as well. Stripes or no stripes on fairways for presentation? What are your thoughts on this one, mate?
Well, we've actually had or have had a bit of both in the past, especially during tournaments. We've had stripes here, and I think we went away from stripes for live, but I think both. Stripes when done well are certainly good to look at. But when the turf was, or the health was in the turf during live, and the turf was on show, certainly no stripes were on fairways and tees, especially were pretty good to look at.
I'm really looking forward to diving into that, because I was there to see live, and mate, it was just something else. The way you brought the best out of that golf course that they played on was fantastic. Mate, we'll move on. Number 4, green-coloured sand. And this is a question that come about from Superintendent Tim Warren at Glenelg, because we were chatting about sand. So in presentation. So I've brought this one on board. This is a new one. Green-coloured sand or natural-coloured sand to repair divots?
We just have gone to green-coloured sand just before Liv came along, so I'm probably going to stick with green-coloured sand on that one. I think, especially through winter when you're not getting recovery, the grey sand that we use does stand out considerably. So I think the green sand has been pretty good. Our members love it.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, so I'll go green sand.
And you don't have and I don't know that you've got, I don't know if we'll probably talk about the ball collection areas in fairways and things you get with sort of fairways and golf courses that have a lot of undulations, and they have got collection points. You get groups and really concentrated regions of divots. And sometimes that really stands out when it's natural coloured sand. You don't really notice it by the eye from a distance when it's green. They're the things that stand out for me with the differences of sands.
Yeah, we're probably lucky in that respect. We don't have a lot of collection areas, but certainly, par threes and
yes,
a couple of landing zones out on some fairways might get a bit torn up. But yeah, we probably don't have too much in around greens where we have major problems with that. But I still think the green sand just covers things up a little bit.
It does. It does. Now, mate, what is your number 5? What is your favourite grass variety?
Sandana.
Love it. Gold.
Yep.
Gold. I used to think I was the only person who liked it. Turns out I'm one of many, but that's a good thing. It's very popular grass type. Number 6. Now, I am going to apologise here because I've since realised that in coming up with this selection of a multiple choice, I've got all East Coast golf courses. So I do apologise, but we'll go with this. Your preferred style of golf course, is it Cape Wickham on King Island? Is it the fantastically well-known Kingston Heath or Elliston? It's a multiple choice. What's your preferred style of golf course? They're all quite different.
Oh, I'd have to go Kingston Heath there. That's that's probably one of my favourite golf courses I've ever had the opportunity to play, and certainly one of the best on the sandbelt and in this country and around the world. There's no doubt about that.
Unreal. And for the final one, mate, this is looking for something different that we may or may not have heard of before, but this is number 7. If you could walk around, not necessarily play, if you could walk around any golf course in Australia tomorrow, which one would it be?
Oh, I think I'd have to go Royal Melbourne. Every time you're there, you see something different, and the place is just so much history. It's Royal Melbourne for me every day.
It's a bit like that, isn't it, Royal Melbourne? It's quite an incredible golf course location. Like you said, you can go back, and I've only been back there a couple of times, and I think you're quite right. You see something different or something new that you go, I didn't see that last time. Look at that. Or that's another standout part of the golf course or the golf courses. It's Royal Melbourne, mate. I think that's going to be a popular one. So very, very well done. Thank you for doing Steve's Super 7, mate. There's some great answers in there. Appreciate your thoughts and your own personal views on those ones. So, mate, well done. Now we're going to get in the thick of it. I hope you're strapped in for this one. We're going to have a bit of fun with this. So, mate, this is where we want to dive into your career. So a bit of an insight, if you can, as much as you're happy to chat about where you've come from and all the facets of your greenkeeping career, mate. So why don't you start off with, I don't know, are you a South Australian born and bred? Are you an Adelaide boy? Where did and how did you get into greenkeeping, mate? Can you tell us that, Rowan?
Yeah, so no, I'm not from SA. I'm from a little town just across the New South Wales Victoria border, up near Mildura, a little town called Coomealla Golf Club, Coomealla. So,
wow.
And started my greenkeeping career at the golf course there.
I have to Google that one. I've got no idea where that is.
Yeah, just 25 minutes out of Mildura.
Okay.
Just across the border. So I'm actually from New South Wales.
Oh, there you go.
But when people say, where are you from, it's easy to just say Mildura.
Yes.
And Mildura is in Victoria. So, just across the border there. But I got into golf at a young age, just playing with my granddad, and just love the sport. Love getting out there on Sundays with a couple of mates or my granddad, and I sort of picked up golf at about 10 or 12 years old, and then I really just fell into the apprenticeship that I gained at Coomealla. A friend of my dad's was the superintendent there, and I fell into the job a little bit. I was not going to lie, I was looking to leave school, and when I got the apprenticeship there, I pretty quickly found out that I had a bit of a passion for presenting the course, and whether or not that was something that came about through playing golf there, I'm not sure. But started my apprenticeship there, and
wow,
a couple of years later, off to Adelaide.
So can I ask Coomealla? Okay, so can I ask you, and I don't know, and forgive me for being ignorant in this regard, was Coomealla, because some of the golf courses down that region is a very dry part of the country, was it all grass greens?
Yep, all grass greens, bent greens, and Sandana fairways. So I've never worked on a course in Australia that's been any other format. Pretty good start to my career. It's a well-known country course up around that area, I guess. And
yep.
Similar vein to the Murray Downs and
Okay.
Coomeallas and those sort of clubs where they're right on the river and, probably built off the back of poker machines and that sort of thing.
Yes,
that came in around that time.
On the New South, it's a funny the way golf evolved along the Murray River is quite interesting with those rules of clubs and poker machines on the New South Wales side, of course. Absolutely. And you had a lot of Victorians that didn't have that, so they would come across to gamble, and that's why we have a lot of the larger clubs. Physically and by way of money and members and size of golf courses, you have 54 size whole golf courses, golf club facilities, and many 36s because it was on the back of that the visitation from the Victorians that didn't have the gambling access that they had in New South Wales. So so it's on the river. So they had water and like you said, grass greens and lots of grass, full grass golf course.
That's right.
Wonderful. That's all good. So you saw your time out there. You saw your apprenticeship completed there.
Yeah, that's right. Sort of nearing the end of my apprenticeship, I just had, because it was so close to SA as well. We had some reps coming over from SA and Victoria, and I sort of just put the word out to a couple of those guys if there was any jobs going in Adelaide, and pretty soon I had the phone number of Stephen Newell at Coomealla, and I gave Steve a call, and I can't quite remember if he was employing anybody or had a position open at the time, but I gave Steve a call and away I went down for an interview, and a couple of days later I had a call back and I'd got a job. So
wow.
Age of 20 I was off to SA and down to Coomealla, much bigger club than Coomealla, that's for sure.
And one of the four major premier golf courses of Adelaide that we all know about. Coomealla's got an incredible name, great history, very highly regarded, hosted tournaments in years gone by. It's that's a really big step.
It was, yeah. Like you said before, though, Adelaide's a big country town, so I guess the move from Coomealla or Mildura up to down to Adelaide wasn't a major shock for me, but certainly the work environment was a bit of a change, but one that I definitely loved it, working at Coomealla.
So you're qualified now, and you're into a high profile golf course in the capital city. There's a lot of changes going on there. Did you know anyone when you went to Adelaide? Were there family or friends or anyone in that city that you had known, or was this a stone cold move?
I had some friends that had moved to Adelaide to go to uni, but no family or anything like that. So I made the move down and was pretty, I don't want to say lonely, but I didn't know anyone here, and anyone really. So I sort of moved in with some guys that were working on the course at the time, and incidentally, one of them is working here with me at Grange at the minute. We just became friends, and I certainly had a lot to learn when I got to Coomealla. I quickly found out, and just the presentation and the way that the guys conducted themselves was just completely different to what I was used to on a country golf course. And like I said, pretty quickly learnt that I needed to ship up or shape out a little bit. So,
when you think you know everything at your last posting, you realise you know nothing at your new one.
Exactly. But look, Steve was a great operator and still is, and just great to be there. I was there for 3 or 4 years under Steve, and great experiences. Worked some tournaments there. Had the Jacobs Creek Open, which those guys had held a lot before I got there.
Yep.
So again, they were pretty well versed in that side of things, and I was pretty fresh, but. Got the opportunity to work there through tournament time and learn a lot. So pretty good spot to work.
Unreal. Of course, Stephen Newell's at Victoria. Yeah, Victoria Golf Club.
That's right. Yeah.
So the host of the Australian Open, the men's, or the whole format, the new format of the Australian Open that we just had in December last year. So big name, no doubt. And so you learn a lot there. And was it was there much of an environment change? You talked about the presentation of the golf course and that, but in terms of going from a country course along the Murray to now into Adelaide, what was the environmental change, and were there different grasses? And you talked about having to learn stuff. Was there a lot, like across the board, not just in the practices, the management practices and the maintenance practices, but the turf, the environment, the soils, was it the whole box and dice?
Oh, look, not really. I mean, like I said, the grass types were very similar. The bents were a little bit different, but Coomealla and Adelaide really have quite similar weather patterns and seasonally. We get all 4 seasons. It's cold in winter, it's really hot in summer, and then those shoulder seasons we really do. It's not wet for 6 months of the year and then hot for the next 6 months. We really do. Whilst it's nice weather here, we really do get all 4 seasons, and Coomealla and Adelaide were a little bit similar in that respect. So yeah, grass types, everything was a bit similar, but still completely new to me. Sure.
Very good. Big team, big change in that regard, working with a much larger team.
Yeah, it was. I think we had 5 or 6 at Coomealla when I left, and might have been 13 or 14, so
wow.
double the staff when I got to Coomealla. And again, just those guys had been conditioned to tournament. The expectations are they are higher at those clubs, and so those guys were day in, day out producing pretty high standards, and that was the main difference for me, and that's probably what elevated me to that next level, or the want to be a superintendent, I guess, came about through just that getting your presentation to the nth degree.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's a lot in that. Getting those last percentages takes more work. It's like 80% of the job you can do in with X amount of people in X amount of time with X amount of money, and then every 1% that you tick up from there requires so much more. A lot of everything.
Yeah, that's right.
It's quite interesting. So a great time had at Coomealla, learned a lot. Second phase of your career. Where did you turn to after that? And maybe what timing, what era are we talking about? What year are we talking?
So I finished up at Coomealla in about 2008, I think it was, late 2008. And I finished at Coomealla after just, I think, narrowly missing out on a promotion there up to the assistant's role. I decided to do a bit of travel. So I went over to St Andrews in Scotland for 12 months.
Was that working?
Yeah, I worked for 9 of those months and then travelled for 3. So
wow.
That was another good experience and something to get under my belt, I guess, at the age I was. I look, from memory, I would have been about 24, something like that, 23, 24, and so it was good at that age to get away overseas and see different parts of the world, get some more experience. I was on the Castle course in St Andrews, so that's the 7th course up the hill, still part of the Links Trust, but not down where all the other courses are, the old and the new and all the others.
Right.
So, and that had that was opening the year that I started there. So
wow, okay, so a new golf course is part of the St Andrews group of course. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was cool. Pretty difficult course to play. Not that I'm a great golfer, but yeah, definitely a tough course to play. Still coastal, so yeah, a lot of challenges there for those guys bringing up a new course around the coast. Fescue and bent predominantly, and yeah, just again learn a hell of a lot off those guys over there before coming back to Adelaide. Was
that something, that travel element and a bit of career, more learning, more broadly learning of very different things, was that something you'd always sort of thought about doing, or was it a bit of a, my time, like you said there, you missed out on the promotion at Coomealla, let me try and think of doing something out of the box? Which way were you thinking? Had you always thought of it or not?
No, I don't think I had. No, I don't. I would categorically say that I hadn't thought about that. I just decided to pull up stumps and go and do something really different for a while. I didn't even sort of have. I can't say I had my future in mind either. Really, I just wanted to go away and do some travel and get some experience at another golf course, have a bit of fun. I'm early 20s and that sort of thing. But
sure, right time of your life.
That's right. So, got away over there, and lo and behold, all these years later, I look back and it was probably something that I did it. I felt like I did it at the right age, and got that experience. It just looks good on the CV. So that was it was great fun over there. That's for sure. Recommend it to anybody.
Unreal. We hear that a lot in different forms that people in their greenkeeping career, whether it be their higher state program, to go to the States and get experience in that, or that just pick regions on their own to go and visit, like you did, St Andrews and that sort of stuff. And other people go to the British Isles, or they go might go to Asia and do things as well. So it's that overseas experience. We often hear about it, and people nearly always say on recollection that it was a really, really great thing that they were able to add to their experience in their careers.
Yeah, and I think it's so important. Again, you can't put a price on experience, really. You can get it in all facets of your job, and we'll talk about it in a moment with my shift when I got back to Adelaide, but those sorts of things really are priceless, going and working at other clubs.
Sure. I mean, I think about my career at the Blue Mountains at Katoomba. We often think of a country region. I think if I ever worked in Sydney, it was probably stepping outside and going overseas just to go to Sydney was probably that sort of experience. But no, mate, it's like I said, lots of people do it, go overseas and get a very more worldly experience in greenkeeping, which is very good to gain under your belt. Now, okay, you come back to Adelaide.
Yeah, so back to Adelaide, pretty well flew in the same day or the 12 months after I flew out, sort of thing, and straight back to Grange. Now, in the time that I'd been away, Richard James, who was the assistant at Coomealla, had moved to Grange Golf Club, and I'd kept in touch with Richie. Him and I are good mates, and we had organised for me to come straight back to Grange. So did that, and spent the next 8 years here, sort of working my way through the ranks a bit, up to the senior assistant's role, and a lot of experience here as well in that time frame. We rebuilt the East Course. We had an irrigation upgrade on the west, so lot going on at this club, as there always is, and it was great to be able to come back here with Richard. He's also a good operator.
That's unreal. So, let's tell people a little bit. You spent obviously a lot of time at Grange. So the Grange is a 36-hole golf course, east and west courses. It's the sort of the northwest away from the city centre itself. Not a long way, but it's out that way. Biggest golf complex in Adelaide. It's a big piece of ground. You had the East Course you talked about, redevelopment, redesign. Now, was that the Norman redesign? Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, so Clayton on the West Course and Norman rebuilt the East in 2011-12.
Wow. Okay. So some pretty big names. This is just highlighting the side. The Grange isn't just a sort of a lower end golf course. This is a pretty big name golf course. They operate on as high a level as anyone, and like I said, have hosted tournaments. So you get Norman in, you got Clayton in, redesigning 2 golf courses. How was was that the first time you'd done a rebuild anywhere?
I'd reconstructed some greens at Coomealla with Steve there, but nothing on that within that scope. We rebuilt 20 or 21 greens in about a 14-month period.
Wow.
All tee complexes, green complexes, and fairway bunkers were upgraded. So it was pretty busy, and there was a bit of a retrofit to the irrigation system. So there's still a bit of stuff out there that's from the old East Course, but anything that was reconstructed had a new system put in it. I think there's about 5 or 6 holes that are completely brand new, but most of them were just a renovation style process.
Yep.
Yeah.
Unreal. So 8 years in total as a not in the superintendent's role like you are at the moment now, but you again learn a lot, new types of work and lots of things to be gained. What was it like going to be at the Grange of 2 golf courses in terms of size of maintenance, the team you fitted in the leadership team, ultimately, I guess, and comparing to Kooyonga?
Yeah, well, again, you're talking double the staff and double the size of the property. Probably a lot more traffic here. At Grange, pretty big member base, about 21 or 2,200 members, and quite a lot of those are regular playing members. Very different golf courses, but as always, it comes down to staff, I guess, and just the as I was moving up through the roles that I've been in, obviously there's more interaction with staff or more engagement with staff required, and I guess that's the part that that grows the most is your management of people, and it needs to, and that was pretty interesting to work my way up through that into that position, and after my 8 years here as senior assistant, I really did have I'll say it was a need to become a superintendent. I really maybe didn't feel like I was ready, but I certainly wanted to get into a position where the buck stopped with me, I guess.
Yep, absolutely. I'm going to ask a question, not knowing the Adelaide, I suppose the way that it works there and the workforces and people and trying to gain employment. Big course, double the staff. You mentioned in terms of maintenance. We often hear about golf courses at the moment struggling for staff. What's it like at a large course like that in Adelaide, being the biggest and the biggest maintenance team, to get staff? Do you turn over staff a bit, or in being a smaller capital city, like a big country town, is it kind of better that way? I don't know. What's it like?
Oh no, look, I think we probably have similar issues to most clubs. We do have a relatively high staff turnover, but I think that just comes off the back of having people come into the industry that aren't familiar with it. It's hard to find qualified people at the minute, and so you're looking from other areas, potentially other industries, and they come in. They might have an interest in golf, might have a perception of what the job might be like, and then maybe they get here and find that it's not exactly what they're after. We potentially lose a lot of people off the back of that. But yeah, finding qualified people is difficult for everybody. But
Sure.
certainly not immune to it here. That's for sure.
So 8 years in the lower roles of the maintenance team, but still in the leadership, ultimately working your way up to the leadership group, the management team. How was and when did you transition from there to superintendent? Did you go elsewhere? What was your next move?
Yeah, so again, that want or need to become a superintendent, I guess, sort of had me looking around the place. And after 8 years, I was looking for other clubs, but I didn't want to just make a jump to something that I ultimately wasn't going to be happy with. So, if you're enjoying where you are, there's no harm in staying for the right and moving when the right job comes up. So I was in that fortunate position, and I eventually had saw an advert for Murray Downs, which again is another course up on the Murray River.
Yeah,
about 2 or 3 hours away from where I grew up, in a place called Swan Hill. And yeah, I applied for the position there. I'd been to that club a few times as a kid to play golf, so I knew what the place was like. I knew the club had some resources and staff, and a bit of a standing in the golf community. So that was appealing. And yeah, so I applied for the job, went for a drive up there. Had an interview there, and I had a young family at the time, and certainly getting back to the country was appealing for me as well. So there was that side of things, but certainly not a bad job to get, and went up to Murray Downs, and a few little changes in Adelaide with Steve Newell going to Victoria. Richard James took the position at Kooyonga, and 8 months later, the job came back up at Grange, and sure enough, I applied for that and went through all the processes. And before I left, I was back. So yeah.
Were you surprised that the opening occurred so soon? Were you just getting your feet settled and yourself sorted back in the country, and you turn around and look back to Adelaide and there's a job opened up in that position at Grange? Was that a bit odd? Were you just like, oh, do I go for this, or where do I go next? Or was it a shoo-in that you were going to throw your hat in the ring?
Oh, look, I certainly I'd like to think I'm a pretty loyal sort of a person, and I felt a bit like I should have potentially stayed at Murray Downs because they'd shown faith in me to take the position or offer me the position, and I was really new there, and I was conscious of that. But just in knowing how often these jobs come up, I couldn't possibly have not thrown my hat in the ring. So yeah, I did that, and again, just fortunate that the club were willing to accept my Steve place. But yeah, they gave me an interview or a couple of interviews, and away we went.
Unreal. That's mate, that's pretty impressive stuff to get back and then land the job as super at Grange. That's what did it feel like then, walking in the first day as superintendent back at the Grange?
Well, after 8 months, not much had changed. Yeah, look, it was familiar territory. So, there've been a couple of staff changes, but nothing major. So, yeah, it was comforting that I knew the place, and I sort of wonder what it would be like, going from any golf club to another that you sort of don't really know, and having to take the reins would be, there'd be a lot of challenges, and hats off to those guys that do it, because most do it well. And, I came in sort of knowing the history and the background, and I knew where every sprinkler was and every valve box and pipe in the ground, and I knew all of those sorts of things. So it was a comforting sort of feeling. But I also knew that I had some changes to make with staff, and some things that I wanted to change up with all sorts of programs. So
sure,
it's been a good move, and I certainly settled back in pretty quickly, and we hit the ground running.
So how long have you been in that role at Grange now?
I've been back here for 5 years.
Okay, so 5 years as superintendent, 2 golf courses at Grange, and you'd already been there previously for an 8-year span, rebuilding and working in part of the team. You knew the place very, very well. So a lot of experience in your mind and under your name at Grange. So you come in really knowing, like you said, knowing the place very, very well. I'm sure that would have been something the club would have considered along the way, whether you want to say it or not. But I on the outside, sit there and think that sort of experience can be somewhat invaluable too, when I think about it as well.
Yeah, I think certainly for a 36-hole facility, private club, both courses are pretty highly regarded. And you're right, we're holding tournaments, national and international tournaments. So it would have certainly been on their mind. But yeah, it's 18 holes to 36. There's not that many people in the country really that are sort of looking after areas or courses that size, and it is a different beast. There can be areas of the course that you don't see for a 2-week period. You're sort of relying a lot on staff to let you know, or you've got areas that never have issues that you maybe don't swing past them as often as the ones where you have the problems. So,
yeah, sure.
You really do need to prioritise your time a little more. But not to say that anyone couldn't do it, but I think that would have certainly been on the committee's mind at the time.
For sure. Mate, what a great journey to get to where you are. A lot of experience gained, and I like to hear that you're a New South Welshman too, by the way. I think a state of origin, been over on the East Coast for the rugby league, so even though we got hammered in the first one by the Queenslanders.
I grew up that far north west, southwest of where rugby's played that I don't even know the rules.
You wouldn't even know.
It's
It's AFL country.
Yeah, it is AFL country.
Very much so. Now, mate, look, thanks for the insight. It's great to hear, and I appreciate you opening up about that. And your journey's been wonderful. You've certainly mixed in with some names along the way in the greenkeeping industry that some of them we know about that have moved to other places and hold some incredible positions through the country. So you've gained a lot of experience under people, working with people, and experienced a lot of different golf courses along the way, including overseas. So, mate, very, very interesting to hear. So, again, thank you. Now, Rowan, I think now is obviously the right time to let's start to learn a little bit about the golf course as well, and there'll be some things there along the way that you've probably done too. And tell us if there's been many changes since those redesigns with the Normans and the Claytons of the world across two courses. Give us an idea, give us some insight into what makes up the Grange and the two golf courses that are there, some of the characteristics.
Yes, so both courses bent greens, Santa Ana fairways, tees, surrounds. So, just the two stands of turf that we're looking after, which does make it easy with a big property. But, like you say, Norman on the east, Clayton on the west, there's certainly some changes across both courses, and that's something that the membership enjoys here is two different golf courses, which is probably what you're seeing a lot more with new builds around the place, 36 new builds. So that's an interesting difference between us and maybe some other clubs. But yeah, it's like I say, a big property with the east was 2011, 2012 rebuilt, and the west course was 2005, 2006. So both relatively new.
Yep.
We've got A4 bent grass out on the east course and A1 out on the west.
So there's a question. Sorry to jump in.
Yep.
What would be the differences between, say, those two grasses, or were you there when those were selected to be across the two different courses? What can you explain anything like to some of the golfers that might be listening?
I wasn't here when that was selected. The bent grass. The west course rebuild in 2005, 2006. I believe Richard got here sort of either midway through or towards the end of that reconstruction period. So the A variety had already been chosen.
Okay.
And I think the main differences that I see between the two is really through winter. We see the density lost in the A1 compared to the A4 a little bit.
Okay.
I probably can't put my finger on anything other than their construction method a little bit. So,
right.
Yeah, both California method, East Course has a consistent 300 mil profile, whereas the West we find has a little bit of a varying sand depth across it. So
okay.
I think some of our issues could be contributed to that. But the A variety is a great turf type and performs well in Adelaide.
Okay, there you go.
I really like it.
Interesting, and a point of note as well, I think back, and I remember my conversation with Nathan Bennett, Superintendent at Royal Adelaide, is that they have a very mottled appearance and four different grass types that they use on their greens, and most of the time we often hear about just the one, usually, is the goal to have often one type of grass variety on greens, so which is kind of what you've just explained there, that you have on courses. So it can be quite different in the experiences from course to course in Adelaide, which is interesting to note as well.
Yeah, that's right. And we do, the A variety certainly gets that mottled kind of look through winter, not so much in summer, but in winter it certainly gets almost a dark purple patches of bent within it, and then, some lime green colours and some almost grey types of bent as well. So they do transition back a little bit through winter, and they look quite cool at that time of the year. I really like that as well. So, but yeah, throughout summer, the greens here to perform pretty well through that stressful summer period.
Yeah, okay. So Santa Ana fairways, a couple of different varieties on the greens. Do you have to? It's a question probably for me, just thinking about it. Is there much? You maintain both those grass varieties the same?
The two bents.
the A1 and the A4.
Yeah, sorry, yep, yeah, we do. They're the courses. We very rarely do anything different from one course to the other. Probably just the main difference, I would say, and it goes back to that construction method, is just their ability to dry down a little bit.
Right.
So a little bit inconsistent with the West course in the way they dry down, and maybe we talk about it later with the live stuff. But it's definitely some challenges out on the West course, and we might also touch on later the early stages of a master planning for the West course as well. So
yeah, cool. We will bring that up. Don't you worry. I'm curious. Pardon me. Other characteristics? Is it sandy there? Because you mentioned that it's on the Adelaide sort of sandbelt, so I assume it's quite sandy, like a lot of the other ones that we know of in Adelaide. Tree cover wise, I mean, I've seen it, but let's describe it a bit to those that haven't seen the Grange.
Yeah, so subtle undulations across the whole property. It is sand, predominantly sand. We got the front nine on our east course is probably the flattest section of land. It is pretty heavy, and there's some drainage required out on that side of the property. But as you move into the back nine on the east, and then basically the whole west course is pure sand.
Okay.
So yeah, not too many drainage issues on the rest of the course, but yeah, it's a great. It really is a great site. You get 10 mil of rain, and within 10 minutes you wouldn't know. So yeah.
Very nice. Very nice. And tree, like there's a bit of tree cover around there. Is that natural trees, the natural types of vegetation from that region? I know, speaking to Superintendent Tim Warren, even Menina Gilby in the work that they've done in Glenelg and the like, that there's a lot of remnant vegetation that are local to that area. Is Grange working on sort of similar things as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have Jessica Abercrombie, our biodiversity manager, in a similar role or same role to Menina over at Glenelg.
Yep.
And yeah, our vegetation here is really significant. We've got some patches of remnant vegetation that they believe are pre-European. So some areas that are basically untouched. And we basically stay out of those as well. We have some contractors that come in and look after those. The change from course to course, the east is where our most significant vegetation is, and mostly Australian natives out on that side. Quite a tight little golf course as well. The vegetation really makes it feel tight, but then you come out onto the west course, a lot of exotic pines. There are some pockets of native or remnant vegetation, but it's more introduced pines. So we have a bit more of an open feel out here, and again, probably not a mass of, or it's probably not the space that makes it feel bigger. It's more that open canopy of the trees where you can see underneath the canopy across to the next fairway, makes it feel a little bit more open. So,
yeah, right.
Distinct changes between the two, but yeah, pretty interesting. Some of the vegetation we've got out here. So a little bit similar to maybe Royal Melbourne. They have some areas out there that I've read about that quite significant stuff there. That we're doing some similar things here, and we do work closely with Glenelg and Royal Adelaide and Coomealla to do a bit of seed sharing and that sort of thing.
Wow.
So,
okay.
Yeah. So that's interesting.
That's impressive. So I think, and I'll probably say that we may not have heard of these things coming from the Grange as much as I know we have at Glenelg in recent times with all the awards that they've also won recently. So you guys are doing similar things to those other clubs that may be more high profile known at the moment for some of that work. You're seed sharing. You've got areas of vegetation that are significant. You're harbouring that, fostering that, which in turn brings also the fauna that comes with the insects and the like as well. So when we go, because I found walking onto the Grange and the two courses, it felt a little bit different to the Royal Adelaide and the Glenelgs, which I've experienced. But you're doing those similar things. I suppose it is slightly away from there, so you're going to have different vegetation a little bit or a different feel.
Yeah, that's right. And, hats off to Tim and Menina. They do a great job of promoting their property. And, we're all involved in the same things that they're doing there, probably with the work that they've got going on, rebuilding. The course is probably a little bit more upfront over there. So,
Sure.
But, we're certainly doing a lot here. We've got some little rare orchids and things that actually don't grow anywhere else on the Adelaide Plains.
Wow.
And a lot of other significant vegetation. So, Jessica's doing a great job in promoting that internally as well amongst our members. That's very important as well. So she's doing a great job of that.
Well, I'm glad to hear, and maybe I've got to. But might have to get in touch with you to talk to Jessica on the podcast maybe and understand more about it from the Grange. But I'm curious that member buy-in and understanding is very, very important when you're spending the club's money and on labour and work in these areas. What is the membership like overall about that? Was it a bit of a tough one to sort of put forward and get that acceptance, or is it something that they were quite open to?
No, they were quite open to it, and we every September, or actually probably earlier than that, sort of July, August, September, we're promoting the growth of the orchids that are sort of only around for a very short period of the year. We have people coming in from outside the club to photograph them and do stories on these orchids.
Really?
So they're quite important to us, and I think the promotion of those within the club has been really good, and the members have bought into that pretty well. But I guess like most members, they're just hunting around for their ball or following their ball around the course. So whilst the tiny little orchids that don't grow anywhere else are right beside them, they're just hunting for their ball at the time. So you do have to keep that sort of thing in their face a little bit. But I think we've done that pretty well, like I say, internally. So.
Yeah, no, that's great to hear, and maybe we can all help together to continue to get these things that golf clubs, not just obviously you guys in Adelaide, but there are other clubs across the country doing similar things. So we need to keep talking about it and I find we need to talk more outwardly to the golf industry and the golfers about these types of things than just to ourselves and patting ourselves on the back. I think that's really important. So the fact that you're doing it internally is great. I think we can all lend a bit of a hand and try and get that message out there to others as well, being golfers along the way. I think it's important. So, mate, well done. I didn't realise that. I know I've spoken to Menina. She mentioned that all the clubs are working together in that, but I didn't realise it was probably as extensive as what you've just explained, which is fantastic to hear, mate. One I'm going to ask you. This is I'm curious. Do you have a preferred course? Which do you prefer, east or west? Now and I don't want you to fence sit. All right, I want you to come out with it and just say, I prefer this one.
Look, no, I probably do prefer to play the west course.
Okay.
That is only because I can't hit a golf ball straight. And like I said, I've got a lot more room out there to hit it under the trees and be able to find it. I think they're both so much fun to play. I think the East course in its design your ball's not attracted to the hazards, but you can find them just through hitting poor shots. And I mean, that points to good design. You hit good shots all day and you'll be in great locations, but the West course is a little bit more forgiving. It probably has that little bit more of an old school sort of a sandbelt feel to it, but that might also be the pine trees. I don't know. They're both good. They're both such fun to play. The members don't. I don't think the members have a preferred course. You sort of see them playing this one day and this one the next. So, it's great that we've got two courses that are both different.
I think it's great. I think it's very good. I think it's important.
But both so much fun to play.
All right, one last question about the course before we go to the topic that I'm certainly keen to hear about in terms of tournament prep. So one question about the golf course is in your own, I suppose, your own words and your experience there, what makes the Grange a little different? And maybe you've mentioned this before. What makes it a little bit different to the Kooyongas, the Royal Adelaides, the Glenelgs of Adelaide? How is it different?
I guess the obvious ones are the size of the property, and
sure,
we've got a great deal of members. Like I said, it's a high traffic sort of a place, but the other clubs have certainly got a lot of traffic on them as well. They certainly maybe have the feel of a little bit more exclusivity at Kooyonga and Royal Adelaide. And, I don't know whether that's right or not, but it's certainly the perception, I guess.
Yep.
Grange is pretty progressive sort of a club and always has been. Really look after their members, and I think that was probably evident through Liv a little bit. Getting a tournament like that to come in, and being the first one in the country. That's sort of the feel I get about this place. They like to be doing things progressively, and that was one of them. Very, very instrumental in getting the Women's Australian Open over to SA for those few years that it was here as well, the club was. So,
yep.
and our manager Barry. So, and just it's such a friendly environment around this club. Whether it's the ground staff talking to the staff in the clubhouse, or whether it's the ground staff talking to the members, not to say that the other clubs aren't friendly and it's a difference between us and them, but certainly for me personally, just a great club atmosphere and a great characteristic of Grange. Yeah.
Sensational, mate, and that takes us nicely to Liv. You talked about it being a progressive club and getting a tournament. Or I don't want to use it because I don't care what golf I'm watching. I just love watching golf. So, but it's been a divisive concept. It's been a divisive league, if you like, and so I suppose the first club in the country when it was on offer to put this on was probably going to, I suppose, face some questions and from people and possibly, and I don't know, and I'm not trying to get you to answer this one, but maybe even internally within the membership there might have been questions in the club to put their hand up and say we want Liv. Can you tell us, mate? Let's probably start at the beginning. What was the feeling like? Were you part of the process of the pitch, or was it just, hey, Rowan, just letting you know, FYI, we got Liv next year? How did that go down?
Yeah, I look up to the start of that question. I think Liv definitely. Everyone had an opinion on Liv when it first started up, I think, and by the time we were announced or it was announced to me that Liv were coming here and we were potential to hold the tournament, there'd been enough water under the bridge that I'd certainly had time to make my mind up on it and how I felt about it. But not that matters really. So I was all for it. And at the end of the day, these guys are out making a living, and for them to be coming to Grange, I was just absolutely wrapped with that. I wasn't thinking about my career or anything like that. I just wanted those golfers to be at Grange, and I wanted it yesterday once I found out. So
it's a pretty the field that travels around with Liv is a pretty incredible list of names. I mean, I've spoken socially and with friends and with other people within the industry that I can't think of how long ago, and I'm calling it many decades, the best part of probably in the 80s or even the 70s, I think that we had a list of the best players in the world, or a list of male golfers with that level of experience and tournament wins and their careers to play in Australia in one event. I'm sure it goes back to the 70s.
Yeah, it was pretty cool once they started arriving. I mean, the practice days, we'll talk about it in a minute, I'm sure, but the practice days were no spectators. So we were basically walking shoulder to shoulder with the players inside the ropes. Some of the guys
unreal.
were on the putting green, changing the hole, standing 2 meters away from DJ or Bryson having a putt, and it's just it's an out-of-body experience, to be honest.
It's pretty. I mean, and these are the things, right? This is what I think a lot of people have lost in a lot of the argument is when you're a golf fan and working on golf courses, we do it for people. If you're doing it for tournaments, you're doing it for the tournament players. They're all there on the putting green. They're all there on the practice fairway. I mean, like you said, we're leading up. So, okay, let's go back a little bit. I'll go back to when you heard about it. What was the feeling like that? Breaking that to the team. Of course, you're going to be preparing the course. And can you tell us how long you had in lead up?
Yeah. So when they first arrived, Liv first came on site. It was all a bit hush hush. So we knew they were visiting us and other clubs around the country, but who was going to get it was up in the air. So they turned up and had a look around. The club did a bit of a pitch to them, and obviously the women's opens that we've had in the past were shown how we could present the course and how well the club handled those sorts of events. And so the pitch was there on that side. They asked us to come up with a composite course, and obviously us not, we took it as though, these are the best golfers in the world. We've got to create a golf course here that's going to, be 7,500 yards long and really tough. But they got here and those guys, they want a spectacle. They want a golf course that these guys are actually going to be able to hit the greens on par fours or, easy par threes, I guess, that they're going to, hopefully have hole-in-ones and things like that. So
Chase Kepter.
Yeah, well, and so we came up with that a longer course, and there's probably several that you could sneak in around this property, and then they got here and actually once it was announced, they sort of just went, well, let's go back nine, and they are the best 2 nines on the property, so that was quite easy in the end, really. There's a couple of little changes within that. The 11th on the east, which would have been the second, was taken out of play and substituted with the 9th on the east. So, a couple of little changes there, but they were only made just for the flow of spectators. Those holes are a little bit tight in between to fit sort of 5,000 people up the side of the fairway. So, yeah, it was pretty easy in the end. The pitch went off without a hitch, and they went away and sort of went quiet for a little while. And I think it wasn't until our manager Barry gave Ron Cross, who was out here from Liv, gave Ron a call and just said, how are we progressing? And we still a chance? And Ron sort of said at that point, well, we're just in discussions with the government, and it sort of snowballed from there pretty quickly, but it was still kept quite quiet for a while just because it needed to be until the government made the announcement.
Sure.
So that was pretty exciting. But to break it to the team, I sort of knew that we're a chance and a good chance, and I sort of didn't want to raise their hopes too much, but I was absolutely peaking. So
I bet you were.
I smile a lot, and I couldn't contain my smile around them. And I think I was that standoffish in telling them that the event was coming. That I think they actually found out about it through social media before I could get to them, which was unfortunate because I really wanted to break that news. But it was once we found out, it was just all bets were off. It was like a party atmosphere in the lunchroom, and some of the guys that hadn't had tournament experience were just beside themselves. They couldn't wait for it, and they didn't have to wait long. We only had 5 months to prepare, so it was once the dust settled. My head was in the clouds for a couple of days, and I sort of it wasn't until I really sat down and put pen to paper and came up with my program leading in that I really focused on it, and after that, it felt like about 10 minutes and it was here.
Well, I guess 5 months to go from being a contender to, you can't really start anything in preparation for a tournament you haven't got. So once you get the yes, you got 5 months. That's a short space of time, mate, I would have thought, to get ready for a huge televised tournament. Is it?
Yeah, it was. But, I think the only thing that we really wanted to make sure that we did was just to regain full cover of the course after our normal renovation programs in September. And so a lot of sodding after it was announced. And maybe some of that was a little bit later than I would have liked. I was hopeful I could get it all done before Christmas, but there was still some areas that were sodding almost a month before the tournament came along.
Right.
But yeah, it was definitely a short lead in. But yeah, I felt like it was almost enough time.
Oh, mate, you guys nailed it. I can, I'll say that because I was fortunate enough to be able to go there and see the final round. So it was great to see the golf course presented in like I've commentated about. So it was amazingly presented well, and congratulations to you and the team and the club, of course, for doing so in what we now know is 5 months. But mate, going back to the team, there's a great deal of excitement. Everyone's jumping over the moon, and I'm sure there would have been a few beers and then some as well consumed along the way of the announcement and winning the gig. Was there, and I go back to the divisiveness of what Liv was, and you'd had time to reconcile it within yourself, and probably the team were over the moon, and they'd had their own thoughts about it. Did you, and say if you can or you can't answer the question, but did you or did anyone from your team, did you ever experience any grumblings from anywhere?
Oh, there was a couple of members, and when I say a couple, I mean one or two.
Okay.
Out of our sort of 2,200 members that sort of voiced those concerns, I think. And, as I said before, I think there was enough water under the bridge with Liv and everybody had sort of made their mind up on it that, it was a good thing for golf. And I think, there was certainly a couple of vocal members, but there always is. And, I think sometimes you've just got to focus on the positives of those things and not discount those guys, but certainly, if you take every criticism and take it on your shoulders, you're probably going to lead a pretty unhappy sort of a life. So we kicked on with the progress. The club were really good in communicating to the members here. So we have a couple of forums throughout the year and did a lot of communication to members that way through e-newsletters and just forums to keep them updated with what we're doing, and it sort of kept all the questions at bay a little bit.
Sure.
So, yeah.
It's look, I felt I had to ask because I would have assumed even if it was at my old club at Katoomba, if we had something like that, some people there would be a small percentage, a very small percentage, like you said, just one or two that are going to have a couple of questions, and it's their opinion, like it's my opinion, like it's your opinion. They're allowed to have opinions, and being a member of a club, they're certainly allowed to ask a question. I've got no doubt. So, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just whether you take it, at what level you take it. So, good that's all it was. Mate, let's talk a little bit about, obviously, what you ended up with presentation of the golf course, because I know that the fairways were, I don't know that I've seen carpet that short or well-maintained, let alone turf, on your fairways. The greens were incredibly flat. I walked on them after the ropes went down because I had a later flight out of Adelaide on the Sunday, and I was gobsmacked at how perfect the greens were after the tournament had finished. I thought that was amazing. So can you tell us a bit about what they were, presented as in terms of their cutting heights and did it take you long to get there? And a little bit, I want to also ask you and pick your brains about the logistics of bringing everything in to build.
Yeah, that was difficult, but so we maintained our greens at 2.8 mil for the week. We really, I guess the time of year for the tournament, sort of mid to late April, sort of lends itself to not having to be as intensive. You've still got the growth there, but it's not aggressive.
Did that help? Growth. Did the timing help? Because it was one of the things that people were talking about was the timing. Did having it then help instead of being in December?
Yeah, no, it did. It did help, and that was probably my main concern. Whilst I've been through April 38 times in my life, and I've never really paid that much attention to it. But February and the warmer months of the year when you're holding tournaments, I was used to that, and so I sort of had your programs that you would put in place if it was in February or November or whatever, and because it was in April, I was a little bit iffy as to how I should manage the bent or the cooch going into that period. If you have a snap cold period and your growth drops off and you've already got the greens to a position where they're tournament ready a month out from tournament, are you going to lose that density? And before you know it, it's not only not right for tournament, but it's also not going to be right for the membership after the event. So there was a couple of questions around that, but as you said earlier, April in Adelaide is actually perfect.
Beautiful.
The bent grass is sort of just in that period where it's just beginning to go dormant. So we didn't have to do a great deal to the greens. We were, as all people are in that position, I think you're a little bit hesitant to go too early. You don't want the greens too fast before the week or too slow, and you don't need a jump in speeds from one day to the next, because that can be detrimental to your end result. So I think we managed the bent relatively well leading in. We didn't have them too fast too early, and then same as the cooch, you've got all of that growing period through summer to get it right and to get it in to the position you want it. And as long as you've got the density there, when the growth starts to drop off, then you're not going to have a problem. And so we really didn't have normal intensive tournament programs in place where you're cutting daily, on different angles, and potentially, we didn't do any verti mowing through the season to try and thin them out or anything. We knew that was going to come just through being the back end of the season on our cooch surfaces. So, we really weren't doing that much different in the months prior to tournament than what we would probably normally be doing. It was just fertility, and certainly making sure that all of our pesticide applications were timed well. That was probably our most important thing, and probably one thing that we don't always get right here, just purely for the traffic that we have. We can't always get the spray unit out of the shed on certain days. We knew we had to get things right from that regard, and the club were pretty good. They gave us about 19 closures, full and part closures, in the lead up to the event.
Wow, okay.
That was good. But in saying that, we did have golf play up until the Sunday before the event started. So, the golfers were on the course the day before Dustin Johnson played it.
Yeah, right, okay. So that's as good as a membership can play a tournament spec golf course.
That was a challenge, most definitely. But, it's something the committee decided early that they were going to give the members that opportunity because of the disruption, I guess, to the course, and the members certainly appreciated it. It came with a lot of challenges doing that with the size of the build, but it was certainly important for committee, and they did that well.
Yeah, no. It's there's that would have been. I'm sure as a member, as a player, that would have been a pretty good thing to be able to try, in inverted commas, a tournament spec golf course. The golf course you know and love so well is now at this X level that's, you wouldn't think it was going to be at.
No.
Pretty interesting, the timing of the year. I go back to that. I think that's probably something that's, it meant you didn't have to do so much like you just explained, more than normal. Outside what you would normally do. So that's pretty cool to hear. What about talking about the build, logistics? You've got equipment left, right and centre having to come in. They're building camera towers. They're building grandstands. They're building the watering hole. They're building shit everywhere. Trucks are coming in. There's stuff going all over the place. What was that like, managing the movements, managing those things to be built, be ready by a certain time? Did weather have an effect? Adelaide's pretty good. Like you said before, you don't get a lot of rain. So lots of movements, lots of stuff going on.
Yeah, it didn't the weather didn't interrupt the build until the very last couple of weeks. We did, I don't know if anybody can recall the gather round for the AFL, but it was pretty wet.
Yes, it was.
Weekend. And so that certainly halted a little bit of the progress. Otherwise, it was pretty smooth sailing, albeit very quick, that they had to get the infrastructure in. I think there was about anywhere between 180 or 200 semis of scaffold that had to come into the property. Are
you serious?
So in terms of infrastructure for us, we're quite lucky in that we've got a bit of space around the outsides of our property. So we, along with Liv, sort of assisted us in building some areas for that infrastructure, knowing that the tournament's going to be here for a couple of years at least. They assisted us to build that stuff, and semis would come into the property, unload, and then they'd put it on smaller utes or flatbed type trucks. And then it would then make its way back out of the property around to the nearest gate and come in that way.
Yeah, right.
I had my assistant, Jeff Gillies. He's gone pretty grey in the last couple of months. He was fantastic in ushering people around the course. Keeping an eye. They have their own project managers on the ground, sort of keeping people under control, but Jeff was the one keeping them under control. So he was fundamental in that process. And Susanna Oliveira, who is also our third in charge, she did a little bit of that as well. So, just delegating that to those guys was, took my mind off it, and I was able to concentrate a bit more on the course and other parts of my job. But it was good for them, but also a very, very stressful period for them. But they
now dye their hair.
They do, yeah. Yep. So no, they did a fantastic job. So yeah.
Unreal. One of the questions, and I'll just jump back to, that I did forget to ask that I was thinking of before, was agronomically, in terms of the course setup. You talked about green speeds, where you're cutting fairways out, presentation, that sort of stuff. Setting up, now correct me if I'm wrong, but I did read something that said that you weren't dictated to by Liv as to what to set the course up at, like we might expect a PGA or somebody to sort of say, look, we want this, the rough to be this long, we want the greens to be these speeds, we want this to be that. Were you dictated to by Liv or by any tournament directors, or was that on you and the club to devise how you wanted the golf course to play?
Yeah, I guess Liv, being a relatively new entity, don't have an agronomist on their list. So when they visited for the first time, or it might have been my first correspondence after it was announced, I might have been seeking some guidance on some of that stuff.
Yep.
Thinking that maybe that was the case, and pretty soon after that, I found out that they don't have an agronomist, and that we basically needed to prepare Grange in the way that Grange best presents for tournaments. That was the words.
That's a pretty good line.
Well, yeah, it was. I guess that also took a bit of weight off my shoulders. I guess I have been here during tournaments, and I've worked at other courses during tournaments as a volunteer, and I've been to British Opens and all sorts of tournaments around the place. And not that I'm well versed in it by no means, but I just, I've been at Grange long enough to know exactly what that meant.
Yep.
So, I took some comfort from that. We have firm, fast surfaces. We have relatively low defences for those sort of golfers. So, I did decide to grow the roughs up a little bit.
Mate, one video you sent me, your foot, I couldn't even see your foot.
Yeah, there was a couple of spots where I might have gone a little overboard. But, that certainly, we actually have a lot of trouble growing rough at Grange with our irrigation patterns. So we put a lot of effort into the rough, more than what we normally would, and that was the byproduct. But I also knew that the moment we had crowds trampling down the sides of fairways, that rough would disappear pretty quickly. And I think we probably see a lack of damage from the traffic up the sides of the fairways just purely for the amount of work that we put into those roughs beforehand. And you would have seen the ropes. I don't know what you thought about it, but the ropes felt like they were on the fairway.
Mate, they were up again. Yeah, I thought we were standing on the rough fairway cut.
Yeah, so there was some, there was some spots of rough that certainly got trampled down pretty quickly. And once the tournament director got on site and Live staff started rolling in, there was a couple of areas that we had to take a look at. Much to my disgust, or not disgust, that's probably not the right word. I probably knew that they were going to tell me to cut the roughs down in a couple of spots, and that's exactly what happened. So,
but overall, it was more or less a something that you guys had come up with, or yourself had come up with, to say this is how we're going to present the golf course.
Yeah, well, we just wanted to have a little bit more of a defence, like I said earlier, around the course, and that's one way we could have got it. Certainly wanted to have the greens a bit firmer than they were. That would have been our second defence. But as I said, the rain the week before, I can't recall exactly how much we had. It might have been 20 mil in the sort of week and a half beforehand. Sort of slowed things up in that respect. But but the rest of the course, we're cutting fairways at 8 mil, and the roughs were at 70. So there's a fair jump. There's a fair jump there. So.
Unreal, mate. Okay, well, thank you for clearing that up in a sense, because I was curious when I'd read about that. I wasn't certain how the course was dictated to being presented for. So, that's great. Thanks, mate. Now, back to the logistics side. I'm sorry to digress again. So, back to the logistics side and the building the infrastructure. You talked about that. The watering hole took up a fair chunk of ground with the stands around it.
Yeah, definitely did. And that was another area that we had some assistance. We put in some new fences and gates across that side of the property, some tracks that lead into that area, some hard stand sort of tracks, and that assisted us to get that in. But yeah, the watering hole was a 6-week build, I think it was.
Wow.
So that hole was out of play for 6 or 7 weeks in total. It's never looked so good in its life. Not a golfer walked up it for that period of time. But we've got a spare hole, so we brought the spare hole into play, and put up some construction fencing, and away it went. It was pretty exciting to watch. We got a time lapse of the whole thing, which was pretty good to see.
Wow, that'd be cool. That's awesome. Yep. Unreal. Now, one thing that I'm curious to know a little bit of, and it's the first thing I think that I noticed when I went in, it was one of the things I was thinking about when I went in, which was the PA system with the music around the golf course. I found that quite interesting. And then when I realised what I was looking at and how it was, cords here, there, and everywhere, and cables and speakers, but that was a pretty impressive setup on its own to have all the tees around the golf course wired up to the same PA system.
Yeah, so I think, look, I didn't get that involved in that, but I think they were all Bluetooth speakers, so I think they all sync automatically. They at about 7 o'clock every morning, all of them would fire up at the same time, so you'd just be out on the course, and all of a sudden the tunes would start playing, and it was actually pretty cool feel, something very different when you're out working, but very, very odd. And I actually lucky enough to have a game in the Pro-Am, and with the music going all day long.
They did it with the Pro-Am as well. It wasn't just the tournament.
Yeah. No, just in the background sort of music that you sort of hear all day long. It was quite a cool sort of feel. So, yeah, it was interesting.
I thought it was a good addition. I didn't think I'd like it when I heard about it, when I knew it was going to be there. Even when I was walking into the gate, I thought, oh, righto. And then surprisingly, I thought it worked really well.
Yeah, no, it is. It provides for a different atmosphere, that's for sure.
Well and truly. Now, a question I've got that everyone would have seen on television after Chase Koepka's hole-in-one. Crowd goes wild. Shit goes everywhere. Thrown in the air. It's like they emptied the stands. And you obviously knew we've all seen the waste management in Phoenix and how they do similar stuff, and that's where I suppose the ideas come from. Cleaning up, was that always part of the game plan? And was you had a few people on standby? Is that something that was just this is what we've got to do, and this is part of the team are going to be stationed there, and in between groups you're going to go and walk and clean up with a bag of rubbish?
Yeah, so we had every day half of our staff would be rostered on to either walk with the groups and rate the bunkers, and the other half that were left all decided that they wanted to go over to the 12th. I don't know where else you would want to go, to be honest. The atmosphere there was pretty cool. So, if they weren't going to be at the 12th or the watering hole, they would have been at the shed sort of cleaning up around here. So I think all of them grabbed a chair and walked over there. But, it was we were posted there for that reason, just in case something did not go wrong. That's not the right word to use, but in case something went right and beers were thrown all over the place. So, the first couple of days there, we were doing a little bit of clean up with, some of the fans there were starting to get a little bit rowdy and just throwing cans for the sake of throwing cans. And, before you knew it, on the Sunday there with the hole-in-one, it was all bets were off. And the thing was the drinks in those corporate facilities, I think, were free. So it was almost like, well, just grab the nearest one next to you. It doesn't matter if it's yours or not, and just throw it. And there's some pretty cool photos with looking back down the hole where it's like it's raining beer cans.
I'm still laughing and giggling. You're right. And usually with a corporate ticket, that's how it is. It's RSA, so it's drink until we tell you to stop. So yeah.
It was that was good, and I was lucky enough to be in the stand at the back when on the back left where the pin was as well. So
right.
I was right there when it happened.
You got to see it firsthand.
Yeah, I saw it firsthand, and I sort of had to quickly jump up and head out onto the green. I wasn't wearing my work clothes, but head out onto the green with a board and try and pat down some of the scuff marks in the green. But look, well worth it. Whilst I'm a greenkeeper and the superintendent here, and it probably hurt me a little bit to see scuff marks in the green. How could you not enjoy that moment and just bask in that? It's probably one of the best sporting moments I've ever seen.
And I'm glad you put it that way, because that was one of the things I was sort of going to ask you. What it's your baby out there. And the team, every team member, it's your baby. You every morning you're maintaining and cutting the grass and getting it all up to spec. And then, in this one small window of a few days, people are going ballistic, throwing shit everywhere. But that's kind of the fun about it, right? That was a really good moment in a backwards kind of way.
I've had to think about that a couple of times, and you maybe see a group of guys out playing and they might have a can in their hand or something like that out on the course. And I just think to myself, what would I do if this guy right now had a chipped it in from off the green or something and decided to just launch his can across the green and scuff it on the green, what would I do?
Yep.
But then I go back to that moment and I'm just like, oh, well, he's having as much fun as those people were. So
and that
golf's changed.
It was a pretty lively moment. Everyone saw it, and it was just look. I think the only thing that wasn't, I was waiting for chairs and then people to be thrown in the air. It was kind of crazy. It was wild. But do we, as greenkeepers and as superintendents, and I can say that because I was one for a period, do we get caught up in our own way of maintaining and looking after our babies, as we call it, the golf courses? Do we get caught up on the details so much so that we sometimes frown upon things when, like you just said, you look at it the other way, and even if it was, a live tournament or one golfer who does something extraordinary in their own mind, goes berserk about it and has a bit of fun, do we get caught up in, oh shit, they scuffed the green, or that made a dent there, and they might have done something that they've never done before and just were excited, or I don't know.
Look, I think you've still got to. It is our baby. We spend a fair percentage of our time here, and when we're not here, it's a fair percentage of our time thinking about it. So I don't think that's, if one guy, having thought about it, if one guy did throw a can and it scuffed up the green, I'd certainly go and have a word to him. But it's not. This is not live golf, mate. Just leave your can in the buggy. But I mean. Yeah, you can't be doing those things on a golf course. Just in general, that would absolutely. I think that side of things would ruin golf. But in a tournament atmosphere, it's not all bets are off, but it certainly provides a different vibe for golf, and I think that's been great for the game.
And it's a different thing, really. It is a different thing. It's a spectacle, so it lends itself to being, pardoned, if that's a way. You're ready for it, and that's what Liv was set up for. Not a group of four blokes going out there and going berserk.
No, not at all.
Now, mate, the pack down. A lot of infrastructure been put up over 6 weeks to put up the watering hole. How long did it take them to pack it down?
About 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks. They got the bulk of it out. So, the stands obviously come down a lot quicker than they go up.
Sure.
But, we had, directly after tournament, we had some pretty bad weather, got pretty wet. So there was a little bit of probably the entrance tracks in and out of the course that they'd used for bump in were, a lot wetter, and things were probably made a little bit worse from that perspective. But still, the infrastructure went out really quickly, and everything that was going to have to be replaced is, whether it was wet or not, is going to be replaced. So there's not that much turf in the grand scheme of things that is needing repair. Everything where the stands were came back really quickly. Considering the time of year.
Yep.
I've been really happy with, or I was happy with the way they looked after the course in the bump out, considering it was wet. Probably the worst damage came from an area on the first fairway where they were parking cars out on the east course. And it wasn't even the whole fairway; it was just one main thoroughfare where the cars were entering and exiting the fairway. So. It's actually been really good.
And there are going to be things like that, right? I mean, I think I worked out when, and I'll refer to, there was a bit of a news article written about with some of the damage that was done on the golf course. And when I'd looked into the weather you'd had, like the next day, I think you had something like 7 out of the preceding 9 days, the following 9 days was rain of some type. So talk about the best weather to be packing down all that infrastructure, the 180 semi-trailers you brought in of all the gear and shipped it all around the golf course. It's going to cause, there's going to be, there's lots of truck movements as we've established to get the stuff back out. So you're going to have a little bit of that. And it does repair, and and everyone's ready to make sure that it goes back to square one. Having done the whole tournament from beginning to end, knowing that you've got it for a couple of years now, how do you think you sit for next year? Like in terms of being ready?
Oh, we're certainly right now. I don't think we're really that certainly everything that's in play is no different to how it would be every other year, maybe better, because we have just had Live. So, it's we'll be ready for it. I just need to know a date now. That's my main concern. But yeah, fingers crossed for next April again.
It's mate, it was, like I said, congratulations to you and the team, everyone in your team, both those that are part of your team regularly and those that no doubt you got volunteers. Did you get volunteers in, I suppose, like all the tournaments that are held?
Yeah, we had 25 volunteers. We had about 56 or 7 staff in total for the week, so that was
bloody hell.
Good.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. Well, look, like I said, congratulations. I say congratulations for everything that was delivered, because being able to get down there and see it was a bonus for me to experience the first one and then have a good look at the golf course after the ropes went down and everyone was leaving was fantastic. And I think it just showed so well on television. It was great to see that group of players at that caliber being on your golf course, and what a great feeling and a privilege, I suppose, to have those people come and play in the first one at Grange, mate, with you know, led by yourself and all your team involved on delivering it. So congratulations, and mate, I hope you guys are incredibly proud of. I'm sure you are, but I hope you're incredibly proud of what you and the club have been able to deliver. It was amazing to watch.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. Yeah, the club are really proud of what went on here, and can't wait for the next one, and my staff are the same.
Fantastic. Well, Rowan Daymond, Superintendent of Grange Golf Club, I have taken up well and truly plenty of your time this afternoon, and I really appreciate you coming on the podcast to open us up to your career and how you got to the Grange, and also everything about the Grange itself, including Live. Mate, thank you so much for your time. It's been wonderful having you on, and mate, I really appreciate the insight you've been able to give myself, not only myself, but also everyone listening into the Grange, and what a wonderful place that those 2 golf courses and that club are in Adelaide, and certainly held in high regard around Australia. So well done, mate, and thank you very much.
Thanks for having me on, Steve.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, how was that one for an interview with Superintendent Rowan Daymond? I hope you enjoyed it. And just a quick note that Rowan and I recorded this podcast interview the day before the men's golf professional world as we know it blew up. Thanks to Rowan for taking the time to be on the Golfing Greenkeeper podcast. That was a fantastic. I really enjoyed it. I hope you did too. It was great to get an insight into Live and the setup for Live, and some of the details behind sort of what went on to get to there. Great to certainly hear about Rowan's career, where his all began and how he got to be superintendent at the Grange, at the wonderful 36-hole facility that the Grange is one of the premier golf courses and golf clubs and golf facilities in Adelaide, which is a fantastic part of Australia for golf. So I hope you guys got a great kick out of it. Like I said, I certainly did, and really enjoyed the chat along the way. And look, I was really hopeful to be able to get Rowan on and hear his bit of insight into the course prep for a new tournament, but hearing about what the Grange can deliver. And it sort of backs up a little bit. If any of you went to Live, I certainly did. It backed up sort of just understanding what it takes to get to the presentation of a tournament. I haven't been able to have a conversation with anyone yet in the lead up to any of the major tournaments in Australia. So I was really thankful again to Rowan for being able to do that. And what a great bit of advertising that was as well for what the Grange is capable of for tournament presentation, and what the golf courses can offer for tournament level for players to compete on. It was really good, and I can't say thank you enough to Rowan for being part of it. So now thank you to you guys for being part of it. I hope glad you were able to take the time out to listen, and I hope you enjoyed it along the way. It was really good to you hopefully got to take something away from that as well. And if you haven't played the Grange before, maybe it's now on your list. If you hadn't thought about it before, maybe the East and West courses are now on your list to visit. If you get the opportunity when you're down travelling through Adelaide, or you might know somebody, you get an opportunity to go there and play one of the 2 golf courses, or indeed both. I hope it put puts the Grange on the map for you if you hadn't considered it before. So I appreciate you all taking the time out to listen. Now, also, I have to thank the sponsors of the podcast, the Keeper of the Green segment of the podcast, and that is Colin Campbell Chemicals to Nadeem. Make sure you don't forget to check out campbellchemicals.com.au, where you'll be able to go and see all of the information you need to see what Colin Campbell Chemicals can do to help you out. Now, listen, this is to everyone listening out there, and I can't reiterate this enough because we have the ASTMA conference coming up next week, and I want to see you, both Nadeem and I are hoping to see you all come down, as many of you guys are possible, down at the Turf Trade Show as part of the Australian Sports Turf Managers Association conference. That's the ASTMA that's being held in Adelaide next week. From the conference itself begins on the 20th. There's a few things on the 19th, the golf and the like, but the actual show, the conference itself at the convention centre is from the 20th to the 22nd, 20, 21, 22. Yeah, that's right. I think Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and I'll be there on the Wednesday and the Thursday. You'll see me in and around the Colin Campbell Chemicals Trade Show stand at the Turf Trade Show. And don't forget, as you heard Nadeem say in Nadeem's Nuggets, that it's free to register if you want to come just to see what's going on in the trade show. And there's so much happening inside the trade show. There's lots of equipment. There's a whole heap of different bits and pieces, parts of the industry, supporters of the industry. If you're in greenkeeping, it's fascinating, and obviously to learn more and see what's going on in support and who services the industry and all the different facets and how it can help you look after golf courses. And if you're on the fringes, if you're a golfer and you might be interested and you're in town, just like I said, it's free to register online to come to just the trade show component. So we want to see you down there come and say good day. If you see me or Nadeem at the Colin Campbell Chemical stand, come down and say hi. And like I said, you guys, you greenkeepers out there, all of you, and then some are all the superstars of turf. And I want to get some photo bombs with you guys when you pop in and say hello to us at the trade show stand there at Colin Campbell Chemicals. So thanks to Nadeem and Colin Campbell Chemicals for sponsoring the podcast, the Keeper of the Green segment. And I'm really looking forward to seeing you down there. Don't forget to leave a review of the podcast. We need to keep them coming to keep elevating the podcast and keep getting people to find it and come across it as they search for different golf podcasts to listen to, and we have that giveaway. We've got a giveaway. I've got a little bit of a surprise giveaway as well going on that I haven't mentioned. So there's more reason to see you on the Wednesday. And keep an eye on my socials because I'm going to announce a time specifically when I will be there that we're going to give this extra bit of giveaway for. So to come down there but I want to see some reviews. So come on, guys and girls out there, please leave a review wherever you do so, on Spotify or on Apple Podcasts. That's going to help me, and it's going to help the podcast kick along. So want to see you down at the conference next week. Like I said, it's on the Wednesday and Thursday is the trade show where we want to see you at. For those of you who aren't coming to all the different seminars and speakers and everything as part of the delegates of the conference, make sure you get into the trade show for all the delegates who are attending. And keep an eye on my socials, the Golfing Greenkeeper, on Instagram and Facebook. I'm going to have some things out. I'll be telling you exactly what time specifically to come and see us and say good day. And we'll be doing a bit of a giveaway. So keep an eye on those social media pages. Share the podcast around as this one comes out on the socials. I want to see you get out there. We want to take this right to the top of the tree of Australian golf podcasts as far as it can go. We just hit number 9 the other day. We launched into the top 10, which is fantastic. We want to keep. We've never been in the top 5, so let's take it to the top 5. I want to see you help me get it out there. I do as much promotion as I can on socials. I need your help to help get us through it and kick it along in your stories and reshares. So thank you to everyone for doing so. I really appreciate your support. Thanks to everyone for the messages. You keep me going with all this sort of stuff and being able to keep bringing it out there in different interviews and things along the way. So thank you guys so much for all your support. I'm looking forward to catching up with you and having a yarn, taking a photo and saying good day down there at the conference if you can. And if you're in the regional areas, the Adelaide Hills, the Aston Hills, the Mount Osmonds, any of those golf courses that are on the fringes of the city, I want you to be able to make the trip in to come to the trade show. Don't forget it's free to register and come and say hi. Thank you so much, guys, for listening. You hit them clean and we'll keep them green, and I'll catch you down at the conference next week.